Mazda wants to go premium with their new SUVs, and they have already presented a new luxurious interior. What else is missing? To be premium, rear-wheel drive and a 6-cylinder engine, and that's the one we are going to drive today here on Autogefühl with Thomas in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go with the Mazda CX-60. European model will be the CX70 in the US with slight changes, and their bigger brothers are the CX80 for Europe and the CX90 for the Northern American market, then with a third seating row. This huge front grille blacked out here in that top trim, and the daytime running light, very interesting, horizontal here, and then another one at the side. And this very interesting color here is called Platinum Quartz. Next to our Platinum Quartz vehicle, I also have here a machine gray vehicle for you if you want a rather dark look. Which one do you find more beautiful? Or what about a white one? And characteristically for Mazda, the Soul Red Crystal, look at that here, always a very strong red color. And turning indicator check, I think that looks pretty cool in the front already, doesn't it? Maybe you have already seen our earlier CX60 episodes where we have driven the plug-in hybrid, and you know, I wasn't that happy with it. For example, suspension wise, how it behaves. It was neither sporty nor very comfortable, and also in waves and so on. Also the transitions of the plug-in hybrid and so on. And interesting thing, what Mazda Europe has done, they invited me to get feedback and to improve then the further development of the car. It's a very rare thing that this happens actually, because the material would be there and you get the feedback from a journalist, but they actually said, hey, we want to take this feedback seriously and really want to do and change something and improve something. So hats off to Mazda that they actually did that. And it will be very interesting if the major criticism that I had was rather related to the plug-in hybrid drivetrain, and if it will be better here today with the inline 6-cylinder pure combustion engine. Really looking forward to the drive especially. The length here at 4.75 m or 187 inches. The CX80 or CX90 in the US, they are the longer models than for the third seating row. And brand internally, if you compare the CX5, that one is 17 centimeters or 7 inches shorter. But in this segment here, they are actually preparing to fight against, for example, Mercedes GLC, BMW X3, Audi Q5, Lexus NX, maybe even the Lexus RX. And people do really consider that. I always see it here in our comments on our channel that people say like, hey, I was thinking getting a Lexus NX or RX, but now I'm considering a CX60, or maybe even decided for that. A couple of years ago, unthinkable. Very interesting development. These here are 20-inch wheels in the black styling, and we also have this huge inline 6 design element here at the side. Overall, a very clean profile, isn't it? Suspension technology wise, by the way, they don't have anything special there. They just have a passive mechanism at the rear axle that the car shouldn't shake up too much, but they don't have like a air suspension optional or something. So that's where they are a little bit different if you compare it to the competition, which offers different adaptive suspensions and so on. But we'll see in the driving part if this one will be okay today. Rear design, very clean and consistent. Also the tail lamp integration, I really like the design. I think they overall really nailed it. The only thing, Autogefühl fake exhaust police alert, because these fake tips, yeah, I think that was not really necessary, wasn't it? And turning indicators in the rear, also very unique actually, but kind of tiny. Do you think that's visible enough? By the way, this flickering effect when they, go back basically, that's just on camera. Now to the interior, the key fob is something they could still improve if you want to play with the premium guys indeed. And door closing sound. Yeah, that one also, yeah, that is still missing to give, more premium feedback from the door, definitely. But inside of the door actually is quite good, because you have nice looking materials. It's not too soft here, but it has a structure. Then this insert here, horizontal styling, and also here the door handle and so on. That looks actually quite good. Also these galvanized tips of the window levers, like that. And this is here a black trim today. There's also a brighter one available if you like. And as for the seats, actually, the US base model of the CX90, for example, will be similar for the other models, start with a full leatherette trim that almost looks identical. In Germany, you can get a fabric seat. In the UK, it directly starts with animal skin, like it is here today. So the thing is that with the new Mazda SUVs here, they are lacking animal skin alternatives in the higher trims. Then when you sit down here, steering wheel has a nice electric function here. You can also very well grab that actually. And also the design of the steering wheel looks really premium-like. And look at that, really nice buttons with clicking sounds. No hashtag capacitive BS. That is one of the key advantages of this vehicle. And with 1m89 or 6'2", still leaves a lot of headroom, although this one is already the one with panoramic roof. In details of the panoramic roof, you have this slider here, and then there's the shade, and of course very important for really hot days. Here it goes all the way across the vehicle. Also nice bright headlining here in this one here. And then we can open it. It doesn't open too wide in length, but it does in width. And also very interesting detail here. Look at these door sills here in the lower part. So they close then in a way that the lower part here is protected and always stays clean. Interior cockpit overview. Wow, look at that. Completely new age for Mazda. Soft touch here in the leatherette style. That looks really amazing. Big button here for the hazard lights, and actually has a nice premium sound. 2 times 12.3 inch. Soon going to show you details of that. And once again, the design of the steering wheel is also really sporty and modern, but at the same time, buttons, 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 buttons. Climate unit. Buttons, 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 buttons. Ah, so easy. Seat heating, seat cooling, a heated steering wheel. Wow. Well done, Mazda. Digital instruments. And here for the startup, you have a nice animation. Look at that. Very cool. So how everything is displayed is pretty cool. Also when you're driving, assistance systems and so on. And straightforward. At the same time, you have this analog view. And you can also get a very helpful head-up display. Infotainment system, now it gets really interesting. So when we're stationary and in the Mazda internal system, it is not touch. I control it from below, which is fine because the menu structure is pretty easy. You also have a car internal GPS. It looks like this, and maybe it's not top of the pops or something, but it is better than in any Mazda we've seen before, definitely. So because the infotainment system here is pretty easy to control, I think I'm also totally fine with the lower setting, and they do this for safety reasons. However, if I have now the Apple CarPlay or Android Auto situation, I have it cable connected at the moment, but wireless is also possible, then you can see a very nice and clear integration. The quality of the screen is really good. I can still control it from below, and I think that's also, while driving, more practical. At the same time, when you're stationary, then it suddenly turns to a touch screen. That is very interesting. However, if you drive, then it's locked again, also in the CarPlay. Just at rolling speed, it still works like this. But again, cool integration. And we have here the Bose sound system in here, and that is delivering us, a very nice sound indeed. Camera system, here you see this drone view from above. This is also the camera looking to the front. When I switch to reverse gear, then I look to the back. For me, a premium vehicle is also supposed to have a soft, dampened glove box. Yes, okay, that box is also checked. Look at that middle console, it's huge indeed, so limits the space a little, but here the sides, here left and right, are very soft, so it's no problem when you touch your knee against it. That's actually well thought out. Then here there's the drive mode selector where you can go to sport mode, and also with a nice satisfying clicking sound. And here also very good how that resonates from the quality. Here also adaptive cup holders. This is the shifting lever, and that's kind of a hit and miss, I think, because here you have to go then to the right in this stairs-like thing. Reverse, neutral, D. I think too complicated, and also it doesn't have an automatic going back function. When I turn off the engine, it just stays like this and then requests to be put back manually before restarting the engine and then another time. Well done is, once again, this control selector here, that you can do that while driving, so easier control of the infotainment while driving, also with hotkeys, GPS, back, home and music, and also a manual volume jog here. I love that. Split opening, and here once again, great build quality. And then you have all the clutter underneath and 2 USB-C chargers. So we have already seen great design and also great quality parts here in the Mazda CX-60. Will be the same for the CX-70 and also for the 80 and 90. They all share, so many base parts. But what about the rear door closing sound? That has always been somewhat a problem with Mazda. Let's listen to it. Yeah, that still sounds like, so yes, I mean, it's a detail. We are the channel of details, that's why we're bringing that to you. But when I then think about, that I pay like maybe 20,000 or 25, maybe 30,000 euros less than for the competition, then I can live with it actually. But if they can fix it without bringing the price up, you're most welcome, Mazda engineers. By the way, another thing is that also, if they're watching now, so here, let's listen to the sound when I fold the seats and then put them back into the hinge. Yeah, that also sounds a little bit weirder, but once again, when I save a lot of money for that, and that's the thing I have to suffer, I'm never suffering with that, no problem. Then, let's take a look here at the rear. It's actually quite cool here also with the soft touch here on the top part. That looks also amazing. Here also soft touch for your elbow and so on. So very good build quality. And look at that. Here, there's like a 90-degree opening for the door. How cool is that? If you think about getting child seats in and out there, this is amazing. And then when you take a look here, the same look, front seat and also in the rear seat, and ISOFIX at the outer parts each. Let's now get inside. And well, this is like one dimension problem of the car is when I'm driving as a tall person, there is hardly any rear legroom. So this vehicle is not focusing on rear legroom, and Mazda hasn't been that good in that respect. Headroom is also quite close. It works with 189 or 6'2", but my hair is already touching the seating. However, the seating position itself is quite okay. So the thing is, when you have tall drivers and then tall people behind it, so for the Michael Jordan family, maybe not the most ideal thing. And then on the middle parts, I kind of sit here. Yeah, that's fairly okay. Sit a little bit higher there. Also works indeed. But again, not the focus to have most space here. Here in this part, armrest, somewhat adaptive with these lips here. And in the middle part, we have a console with 2 USB-C chargers and a real power socket and seat heating if you like. Let's take a look at the trunk or the boot, the electric hatch, and then we have here an astonishing good width actually. But first of all, here, look at that, this cover here is attached at the higher part, actually an intelligent solution because you have a free way then always here, but at the same time visual protection. And then here the width is actually 1 meter 10 or 43 inches. That's really segment leading, I would say. And then the length is a little bit less than 1 meter or 40 inches. Underneath here, there's, for example, sound equipment. And then we can fold the seats right here at the side. And here you can go with just the middle part, this ski hatch thing. And the outer part here is then for the left side. Yeah, halfway, let's say, and the right side, and here for the right side. That was a little bit quicker. You see they don't fold flat immediately. The length is approximately 1 meter 65 total length or 65 inches. But here there's a problem. Even if I push from here, it doesn't really work because that is hitting my front seat. On the passenger side, of course, we can go a little bit more forward, but the seat folding mechanism is not ideal. And also see here, like quality-wise, this thing here, that's maybe something where they have to learn still a little bit. And about engines, you might remember there's the 2.5 liter plug-in hybrid, both for Europe and the US for the new Mazda SUVs. This one also comes with an independent heating, by the way, via the plug-in hybrid battery. Some of you have asked that, but today it's about the inline 6-cylinder. First time we can drive it. There's either the 3.3 liter diesel inline 6-cylinder with 200 horsepower rear drive, 250 horsepower and all-wheel drive, but still then rear-wheel bias. This is a rear-wheel driven platform. And for the petrol engines, really interesting, the US market for the CX90 and the CX70 gets a 3.3 liter turbo petrol engine, 6-cylinder, 280 horsepower, and in Europe you'll get the 3.0, so 3.0 liter inline 6-cylinder with the SkyActiv X technology. So this is kind of like a compressor as well, so will more or less serve also as a turbo purpose, but supposed to be more fuel efficient. And acceleration figures, around 8.5 seconds for the rear-wheel driven diesel, then some 7.5 seconds for the all-wheel drive diesel, and the petrol engines somewhat 7 seconds. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge with the Mazda CX-60, this inline 6-cylinder first time. Here we go to the sport mode, in this case here the 3.3 liter diesel, and rear-wheel drive for the first time since, the MX-5, has rear-wheel drive, but the others don't. So this will be super interesting how it performs. First of all, steering-wise, very natural feeling and behavior. We know that from Mazda indeed, and they perform also steering-wise. And you know that I have been criticizing the plug-in hybrid for its driving characteristics. And I already feel here right now, this one is so much better indeed. We don't have the weight of the plug-in hybrid, so this one feels more agile indeed. Rear-wheel drive, of course, it's not the most, powerful engine there is. Here around 200 horsepower, so there will be more powerful competitors out there, yes. However, I feel that when I accelerate, it goes out of the corner quite well, actually. Of course, the weight cannot be denied, so if you compare it to a CX-5, for example, CX-5 is the more fun car to drive, especially here in tight corners. But this is focusing on being a luxury SUV, so it's okay when it's not the most agile one. However, I definitely feel the difference that here with the internal combustion engine, without the added battery, it is a way better drive. Also, the suspension does a better job, and you see, maybe even on camera, it doesn't shake up too much. Yeah, it shakes a little bit, yes, but considering it's okay, We don't have adaptive suspension here, or air suspension that can go stiffer in the sport mode, so it shakes more to the outside than, for example, the German competitors. So the German competitors would do better in agile driving. But then again, they also have such a higher price and all the other things, Mazda can really keep up. So the only thing they could maybe not keep up with the German competitors is really this agile driving experience that you have, then more fun with the German competitors. In this case, a great landscape here on Montserrat Mountains. Again, it won't be the most fun SUV, but the main thing is, of course, here that you have a luxury ride, and they do achieve that. And once again, said it, the steering input is really natural and direct. I like that. Oh, even some snow here left up in the mountain. So do you need the all-wheel drive version or rear-wheel drive? Well, rear-wheel drive is always fun. Of course, it doesn't make the biggest difference in this horsepower region. Then again, all-wheel drive you would just need basically if you really need it for your weather conditions or something. The all-wheel drive model has 50 horsepower more, so it's a little bit more powerful, but this one is actually sufficient. Again, not the most powerful engine, but it's actually quite cool, and you can also push it a little bit more if you like. So when you hit it out like this, then we also hear a little bit more from that. In the sports mode, shifting is also adapted, so it's shifting up later, shifting down earlier. Yeah, that's actually fine. And acceleration test, slightly downhill. That's 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour. Again, where the beginning was rather straight, but then the last bit was slightly downhill. That's the best I could deliver here right now, but just that you get an approximate estimate of how quick the acceleration here is. And now to some motorway driving here with the Mazda CX-60 6-cylinder. Noise insulation here at 120 kilometers an hour, or like 70 miles an hour, is good. It's reasonably silent, and indeed it does deliver, also the motorway, it does deliver you a premium driving experience. So this is indeed a problem for premium manufacturers, and we recently saw that, told you that earlier, that I read some comments here from you. Hey, I was considering now between Lexus RX or NX and the Mazda CX-60, and that wouldn't have been the case a couple of years ago, so that's really, really interesting. So steering wise here, also really precise when I want to induce a lane change or something. There's no big dead zone area. Assistance systems, this one is equipped here with everything. So I have the adaptive cruise control, and now I also activate the active lane keeping assist. Let's see how it performs. Here now a slight bend on the motorway. See here, it's not that intrusive, so it's not doing too much that I would say like, hey, don't interfere too much with me or something. So, but here, mastered this bend very well so far. Yeah, this is very good actually. And there's also blind spot monitor. See, this Audi here behind me probably wants to drive faster than allowed, so let's make him overtake. He can catch the next speed camera. There's the blind spot monitor, and when I hit the turning indicator, I also get the acoustic warning. You will not get the super sporty experience because this is not the intention of this vehicle, so it will shake up more than maybe some of the competitors. So also if you compare it to the Mazda CX-5, the CX-5 will always be the more direct, the sportier choice, the more Mazda-esque choice, or Mazda-ish choice, if we can say so. The CX-60 wants to open this new chapter of Mazda that they say like, hey, we not only can do driver-focused vehicles, which are a lot of fun, but we can go more into this luxury direction. So we've driven a couple of 100 kilometers now with two different vehicles, and what did we find? What did we have more from this experience? First interesting key finding is, yes, Mazda can keep up, with this premium touch with also brands you couldn't compare it before. That's one of the key achievements of here CX60, CX70, CX80, CX90, this whole new premium Mazda SUV family indeed. What is missing is the agile driving fun. It is not so much fun to drive it in tight corners, and also your lower back tends to get fatigued because you always have to keep yourself upright. There, the CX-5, brand internally, is better, or also the competition, let's say, especially like the Germans, Audi, BMW, Mercedes, they just deliver you more in suspension, especially in the agile driving part, but they still keep the comfort. Here, it's more the comfort-only focus. Driving straight on the motorway is actually fine. However, here now with the diesel or combustion engine in general, you have less weight in comparison to the plug-in hybrid, and that's actually better for the suspension. So the plug-in hybrid tended to sometimes, like when you have some waves, almost lift up with the rear axle, and they still have to fix that. They have a same, let's say, core problem with the car in general, but it's not as bad as with the plug-in hybrid when you have less weight than here. Then again, you have to think, if you compare it to some of the competitors, you pay around 20,000 euros less. For example, if you compare like a high-spec Mazda CX-60 versus a BMW X3 or Mercedes GLC. And then, of course, you start thinking if this extra price is justified. When you love agile driving, maybe yes. Or then you have to save even more money and go down to the CX-5. But if ever agile driving is not such a big thing for you, then you can as well go for the CX-60. And what about the fuel economy? Well, here with this is the comeback of the diesel. We could score some 6 liters on 100 kilometers. That's 39 mpg US, 47 mpg UK. Quite good result for a vehicle of that size. And here in a secret workshop, we even confirmed the consumption figure. How are these real tests are being done? So you fuel up the car really like until it's super, super full. You should not do it privately, because there is a reason that there's some gap left, because the fuel can get a little bit wider, bigger actually when it's, for example, hotter temperature and so on. So it's good that you just normally fuel up the car, and when it automatically stops, then stop it. But here, for testing purposes, we really fill it up till the last gap, and then you shake the car a little bit that the air comes out, that you can fill even more in, and then later on you can fill it up totally again, and then you have a very precise consumption figure. And the onboard computer was actually pretty precise. This is actually the most economic engine here, the diesel rear-wheel drive. Of course, we'll keep you later updated when we also drive some consumption tests with the petrol engine. Here with this one, then you can get one fuel tank of like 1,000 kilometers or 600 miles of range. Quite impressive. 58 liters is the fuel tank here, by the way. But it's, of course, always a question if you can empty it completely. Then the automatic gearbox here, new 8-speed, directly developed by Mazda. It is quite okay, I would say, and an improvement. However, you cannot compare it to a proper converter automatic gearbox, for example, delivered by ZF, which is then used, for example, BMW and so on, because this one here is not that smooth. It's not bad, but not as smooth as other automatic gearboxes we maybe know from way more expensive cars. And that's also the thing, Some things you get better here, like still having the rear buttons, where the Germans go like, touch here. That's, we don't like that here. And I think most of you don't like it either. So some things you get better, But then at some other points, like the driving agility or the automatic gearbox and so on, and suspension, you have to make some compromises, but then again, you pay less money. Overall, still a very interesting proposal here in this very segment. You should compare the competitors, or maybe, if you're interested in the plug-in hybrid, we also have a video of this one here.